The Wolastoqey River, also known as the St. John River, runs up the entire western half of New Brunswick. It means the beautiful and bountiful river. The tributaries and streams that feed into it make up half the province. The traditional territory of the Wolastoqey Nation, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. And they want some of that land back.
So also the river was a highway, transportation route. It was able to take us from community down to St. John, Moqon, they call it Moqon, down to the ocean.
Ed Purley is an elder with the Wolastoqey Nation of New Brunswick, which is currently tied up in court with the Crown, fighting for Aboriginal title to their ancestral territory.
It's unfortunate that we have to prove that the land is for our use, and if you were to take your DNA and my DNA, and they would link us directly right to the land, because that's where we came from, and that's when we'll go back to.
So driving along the Trans-Canada Highway from Edmundston to Fredericton, this is all traditional Wolastoqey territory as far as the eye can see. So can you tell me where we are right now?
So we're standing on the banks of the Wolastoqey River. So Wolastoqey in Wolastoqey means beautiful and bountiful river. And we are Wolastoqey, which is the people of the beautiful and bountiful river.
Chief Patricia Bernard has been down this path before.
There's an area here outlined in red, and the notation said, the Indians require the area outlined in red with the exception of this particular lot. So it shows the acreage of the reserve.
Successfully litigating a smaller specific land claim in her community of Madawaska in 2021. Now, she is one of 6 Wolastoqey chiefs back in the courts, and it's a whole new challenge for the nation as a whole, fighting for Aboriginal title to their ancestral homelands.
So the lands that we want back are lands that don't have any infrastructure, and if you're a private landholder, we're not going after you if you're not named in our claim.
The Wolastoqey River connects the 6 New Brunswick Wolastoqey communities. Their ties to the river are the backbone of their case.
The river runs through the heart of the territory and our homelands, and it plays a huge part, particularly when it comes to proving that yes, we were living along this river, and it's pretty hard to sort of claim, no, you weren't, when we're actually named after the river. Like, we are the river.
A formal response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action.
One of the recommendations from the 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action dealt with Aboriginal title, and it may be one of the hardest to make progress on. Proving title can be a lengthy and costly process, requiring Indigenous nations to prove sufficient and continuous occupation of their territory. To gain Aboriginal title, the nation needs to prove they exclusively occupied a territory at the date of the assertion of sovereignty.
It's the date where the British started acting as though they were the sovereign, right?
Renee Peltier is the lawyer for the Wolastoqey Nation.
And so the courts have said in New Brunswick that date is 1759. And so part of the reason that Aboriginal title cases take as long as they do is we need to collect a bunch of evidence to show where the Wolastoqey were in 1759, what parts of their territory, how they were using their territory, and that they were using their territory to the exclusion of other Indigenous nations.
When we look at the call to action around Aboriginal title, are you able to unpack that a little bit?
I think that the spirit of it is really calling on I think the federal, provincial governments, like the Crown, to sit down and to try to resolve issues outside of the courtroom. Courts have actually said that this idea of reconciliation, the Supreme Court of Canada said, rarely happens inside the courtroom. Having First Nations or Indigenous nations have to go through a court process for decades, spending millions of dollars, that can't be the solution.
Ron Tremblay is Grand Chief of the Wolastoqey Grand Council. And although he is not involved with the Wolastoqey Nation of New Brunswick's litigation, his commitment to his culture is more than skin deep. His knowledge of the language holds some of the answers when it comes to further proving the traditional connection between the Wolastoqey and New Brunswick.
We have place names in all these places. The city of St. John, we have a name for that. Moqon, where the rocks had split. And we have a story why those rocks were split. So that's the first thing that the colonizer did, is they came and they changed the names of our sacred places and where we met, where we gathered.
But until something changes in the way Canada addresses issues around Aboriginal title, cases like this will have to be resolved in court. Where Tremblay is skeptical nations like the Wolastoqey will ever get fair treatment.
Indigenous people will never receive justice in the colonial legal system because it's their system. And it's always us being behind the 8 ball having to prove our existence.